What's good, y'all? We back here with another video on Crank Central. Now, I know I am a couple days, maybe just 8 days late to this battle, especially with it being, of course, the school that I attend, the band I marched in. However, we had, of course, the huge mega band battle this past weekend that we had to get the stream out for, as well as the fact that the channel hit 1,000 subscribers. So, we had to take a little moment to celebrate for the day type shit. But genuinely, I want to take this time to thank every single person who has subscribed to this channel, who has watched any of these videos, commented, been to any of the streams, or just participated in any part of the culture. Because honestly, this channel, as well as the content on it, as well as the Discord in the description, is my version of expressing my passion for this culture that has been cultivated, that goes way beyond me, way beyond any other creator on this platform, both videographer, reviewer, analyzer, podcaster, etc. It's just the entirety of HBCU culture. So thank you all for helping this channel be a celebration of that. But without further ado, we have a battle to get to between the Texas Southern University Ocean of Soul and the Prairie A&M Marching Storm. Let's get to it. All right, getting into it. I actually was at this battle live and in person. It was a good battle, so I'll try to leave as many unique opinions from the in-person listening separate, but let's get to it. I'm going with Brian Glez's version. For the first few minutes, camera isn't there, but we do have the audio. Come on, you folks. And here's my biggest problem with PV. It's just the muddying of the melody within layering. Between the muddying of the melody, lack of direct power that's all caused by articulation within their UFO section. Yeah. But other than that, it doesn't sound bad. Oh, I like that. This shit trumpets. I'm not gonna lie, in the way that they use upper brass, as well as the euphoria of those block harmonies, I do like that enough for it to get a 2. All right, Texas Southern time. What you got, Osha? This Alexander piece. Good bliss, of course. I'm not completely sold on that bass line. I get trying to use them like a pick bass. Sometimes it works. Good phrasing throughout that upper brass. Want a little bit more direction with those. Okay. All right, I feel the tension. I felt the tension build. to some emptiness and then a mood change. There's some structure to the dissonance, which is always the thing about Alexander pieces. Where is the tension gonna lead to? There we go. Got some visuals now. Like I mentioned, the thing about a lot of Mr. Alexander's pieces that he'll select, just sheer song selection, right? It leverages, of course, to the style that he, likes the best. Creation of dissonance and the dissipation of that with some good euphoric long hangovers, specifically utilizing like UFOs and mellows for that, right? For the most part, a lot of drawn out melodies, right? And drawn out phrases from any section, right? Might combine it with some unison or some harmony. And sometimes it works, especially with its placement in the battle, and depending on how easy or catchy the melody is to follow or how long the tension goes unresolved, right? And when it comes to this song specifically, and I'm going through all this because this is my thought process literally when I was listening to it in person. At this point, when you hear an Alexander piece like this, it's like, okay, I know what I'm gonna get. Am I gonna like it? To be honest, I didn't like it that much. Execution was really good, especially for upper brass. I think the phrasing was like really well from them. In the first half, definitely wanted a little bit more stability in how UFOs were attacking the note and sustaining that, specifically with how much weight that they were providing, even if it didn't come with as much power. I think trombones did solid. I don't like how tubas were decided to be used right there. Although, that's definitely the baseline for that, that best fits the piece, or that is the piece. I think it takes away from any type of presence that they had throughout their entire song for the purpose of setting the tone for a beat and for a groove that never really felt comforting. I never got into it, I suppose, throughout like the entire song. And that was the whole point of their bass line from beginning to end. So I'm not gonna lie, 1.5 to start. 1.5 to start. All right, PV, what you got? Hopefully something with a little bit more kineticness as we start to get into the battle. More moving parts. Okay. Good sustained mellows. Good fall mellows. Someone off key right there. And it's not going nowhere. And then the muddying of that melody again. It's like it gets mixed in and covered with the other layers that they do like finally try to add. Not a bad build with that run. all sounded unsure. Them trumpets, I don't know what last note y'all were trying to sit on top of. 1.5 at best, I'll be honest. That was way too muddy. That was played with way too much of a question mark, lack of direction, lack of clarity between distinguishing the melody from other parts. Definitely more moving parts is just the way that it never meshed together. And it's mostly because of the clarity. That's mostly on articulation, and that's mostly on playing with direction, playing with clarity. It starts from articulation. And that's something I've always felt about how PV plays. Even with them continuing to improve on kind of writing it. All right, Texas Southern. I can't tell y'all how crazy this was in person. X Factors. The mellows and UFOs. Not a bad overtone trumpets. Good smear. With the drum break. Good tonguing throughout all that. Trumpets and UFOs. Changing some of those responses for UFOs. I wish he had doubled that up with trumpets and somebody. It's a little bit too much. Okay. Took out the response entirely. Come on. I felt like that drag in the seat after that would have been a good finale. Look. Y'all know how I feel about that original arrangement. And not even just the original arrangement, but specifically when Mob played it back in 2019. It's one of the greatest summer band moments of all time. A lot. And in terms of bringing it to fall band, I don't have a problem with it, to be honest. Now, the adjustments to the arrangement are interesting to me, specifically because it deals with those two X factors that I was talking about the most within Mellows and UFOs, right? And I think that some of the changes that he made for Mellows, although I think it fits more of a collegiate arrangement, right, being played by 200 people of now more varying skill levels as opposed to all-star band, right, where you're mostly gonna be dealing with alumni, especially back in 2019 and especially with Mob. I do think that there's some instances to where even some of those changes didn't leverage to, you know, the fact that like trumpets probably needed some support. In that middle section, right before climax, trumpets are out there, well, with the chorus, right? Trumpets are out there by themselves competing against a pretty strong UFO counter melody that's going on simultaneously, trombone power chord, tuba moving bass line, right? And mellows are just kind of like either sitting out or like underneath. I feel like you can pretty much double all upper brass right there to kind of bring that chorus right there. Now granted, it's the same chorus that they then double on in the back half of the song. So, you know, the power difference, right, it would kind of be artificial to have them like hold back right there, but still double them. And then in the back half for the climax, then double them and just tell them to go full out to have that, oh shit, they're blowing now, even though, you know, structurally they'd be playing the same thing. Changes like that, I was kind of looking a little bit for. And the UFO changes I really like, specifically of how they scale around like the 3, the 5, and then going back to the 1, or hidden high points to create this harmony to where UFO voice is sitting on top to kind of accentuate the end of whatever phrase mellows or trumpets are playing at the time. In terms of the execution of it, honestly, I think they could have just brought like more power, to be honest. Just more like, nah, this is a power ballad. You can scream some of them phrases, but also I think structurally the true like power in it, I do think was held up back just a little bit. I give it a 2. All right. And he changed that ending, because can't bring that ending to college. It just doesn't feel like this bass line is for this song. It's very ill-fitting, and I can barely hear it. UFOs. Okay. Right now, it just kind of feel like they're just playing it. If that makes sense. Granted, I don't know the original song. I'm not feeling this song. One, I'm gonna let him keep going. You heard this at National Battle of the Bands if you was there for that stream. 'They punching now. Upper brass phrasing that whole section. Yeah. What is Kevin doing? with some good power from lower brass as well. Build this with the triad. And the percussion build. Y'all hear how no matter what or no matter how much is going on at the same time, there's priority placed on the clarity of the melody sitting on top of everything else. Even in that opening instance where UFOs and trombones are playing that kind of break, you know, they kind of take turns of which melody is being heard first, or which voice is being heard more. And that's intentional in terms of both how it's written and how you know it's going to be timed, but also the level of intention that each section is playing with in terms of knowing who's leading and who isn't. Now, granted, Alexander also writes in isolation, so especially for that back half, it goes straight from upper brass unison to lower brass response. Right, like I get that, and I understand that's like a clear the runway thing. That's all, and that has its challenges too. You can look to last year's Labor Day Classic review for that. That has its downfalls. However, things like that, I don't understand how there's like any other way to go about like writing music. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think that's pretty universal. Like, the melody, clarity of the melody is the most important part of the song. I don't know. And I'm using that as a breakdown to kind of like showcase the functionalism in my critiques for PV. That will always be my biggest critique for PV until it's changed, to be honest. 2.5. Back to PV for the start of round 4. We are halfway through the battle already. I thought, correct me if, well, don't correct me, because I know it's not true, but when I first heard this, even though I knew it was ring, 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 I'm like, this is joy and pain. Good drive. Good overtone. Solid leading. Trumpet staggering that is interesting. But weak on that run. Why? Why are those top parts? Too many times the leading thing in my ear is a chord. Too many times. Okay, 1.5. I really want to like that more than I do. It all literally comes down to times where I quite literally hear UFO runs or trumpet runs literally played at piano with a crescendo to mezzo piano as a lead-in to where they're supposed to be taking over the melody. And I just can't understand why that's happening. I just can't. Prof Sim is on the stand. That's intentionally underneath with that UFO. comes out of blending into trumpet lead. Good job not overtaxing, but you sacrifice a lot of strength. Simmons songs always have a constant conversation going on in them. There is always something moving or jagging or jigging or syncopated like movement or groove always going on to either propel the melody forward or to respond to the melody in a way that like contorts it, echoes it, or is a different interpolation of it that descends back into the start of the melody, or like kind of finishes off the phrase, even if it's A, not present, or B, just bringing out an underlying element of the tune that just otherwise like falls by the wayside. And those elements make it such more dynamic and gives so much more to listen to, as well as the fact that like that song still integrated underlying moving parts, but they were layered in a way to where there was something else going on that was more important. Like we heard the melody and we heard a counter, or we heard a chord that broke off into an underlying moving part, but because it's not the main melody, it makes sense for it to be played at a lower volume. I don't know. It's Angie Stone. I had to put my niggas on the Angie Stone at the game, man. I like this bass line split. It fills it to where you can get away with that lower brass unison. I don't like how choppy and detached that was. Ooh, you folks. Y'all tone. Too airy. Move your tongue out the way. And then just the lack of just like straight playing in here is also a problem. Picking up too much air in the note. I'm picking up too much disruption in the note instead of just straight ta 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 ta. Like I'm picking up way too much ta 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 ta. Way too much of that for collegiate level players. 1.5. As well as the fact that that was choppy as hell for a song that is all about emotion, expression. Okay. Good build of the chord ambience. fit. Weird fit UFOs. I think somebody definitely slipped. Make those cords fit, Tremons. Some weird fitting cords at a time where it's like you gotta sell this this fit, that point, you know. Otherwise solid so far. Ah, UFOs. Started out strong, but y'all was letting each other die come the third rotation. No, second rotation for that stagger. I'll probably give it. I'll probably give it a week, 2.5. 2.5. That UFO stagger is really important. A song that fully leans into the power of UFOs layering on top of the rest of the band, while UFOs also UFOs also seemingly being hollow or thin or just not dominant. Somebody tried it. I hear it clearer here than in person, and I can really hear somebody like struggling for that. What's that? Is that a 7? Yeah, that half step. Ooh, damn. Y'all tried. Somebody tried. Do it again. Fuck it. You can only get it right? I don't like the effect that Woodwinds had right there. Okay, a few people joined them on the one. And also that 7th doesn't fit the rest of what the rest of the band is doing. 1.5. I'm surprised all game 1 I didn't see Dr. Pollard take the podium. I am curious to see what he's up to. I like that lick. I like that lick. They got the posters week 1. That might be the most like traditional power rap song that I've ever heard Alexander write. This is truly like some stuff that like any power band would play, like with, you know, facing one of those 300-piece bands. They sound damn good. 2.5. 2.5. 2.5. And I mean in structure, not that they sound like anybody else. And I know they got one more. I was indeed there. Shout out to Mr. Morris. Shout out Nation. Two of his songs in the 0.
This may be the last ad you ever see. Because with the free ad block extension from
Alright, what's gonna be the encore? What's gonna be the encore? And actually, let me add up these scores while they send them back to Pissy View. They trying to chant because we ain't got it. A Gam and a Mob piece. And y'all been telling me they got more DNA with Southern. Okay. They have more DNA with Summer Band in general, but this is way faster than how Gam played it. And I know my P5 brothers feeling it. Solid rendition of it. Of course, this is a rivalry game, right? I did March Ocean, right? I am P5. I feel like I gotta do this for another start of the year. A lot of my opinions and takeaways are grounded and, you know, still contains a level of preference, still contains a level of bias, not to Texas Southern, but to just how I view music, because there's different interpretations and different values. I feel a lot of it to still be grounded in pretty reasonable thought in terms of arranging, in terms of layering a song, in terms of voicing, etc. The final scores for this is Texas Southern 13.5 to PV with 9. A closer matchup than some would think. In my opinion, not as close as last year, just because I think that Texas Southern is kind of on a different level coming out the gate than last year. Last year, I was in the minority of people that thought that PV was closer to a lot of bands than other people thought. Last year's scores were 11 to 8.5. And also, like, I thought that PV was close to knocking off Southern last year. But nevertheless, PV has a better holistic product. Definitely improved in terms of the consistency of a lot of their pieces. In terms of providing more movement in things that require it having a little bit more styling. Literally the only thing for me is, well, a few things. The tonality of some holdouts of some phrases, specifically within UFOs and trumpets, gets shaky, gets wonky, gets airy, gets pitchy, starts bending the pitch mid-phrase. And the way that y'all release phrases does not land on pitch a lot as well. That's across the entirety of the band. In terms of leading melodies, that is purely in layering, that is purely in structure, that is purely in understanding and recognizing your best sections, your bare sections, and how parts conflict with each other when you have a level of dynamism going on right here in this range, and how that conflicts with this voice moving around trying to lead this melody. One might be detached, one might be attached. How does that dynamic interpolate with each other, and what volume do they have to be played at in order to not step on each other's toes or to just completely cover up and muddy up the leading voice, which is always the most important thing in my opinion, in any and all of this, especially with the song selection that y'all have. Like, specifically when you choose songs that are very expressionable with these sang and performed by these singers who are known for dragging their voice and connecting these tissues and having a very leading voice over the instruments that they do use in their songs, becomes more noticeable when you chop them up or when they become muddied in your interpretation of it. Going to Texas Southern is starting the year off on a stronger foot than they have in the past 2 years. Yeah, even my last year marching, I'd probably say that this was a better start than 23. Just because the things that they showcase here are things that, especially going against bands that are consistently across the SWAC 220 and up, 250 and up, just having those power selections to really just blow the fuck out of somebody. Crazy shit. Is really necessary to have in your book, and it's something that Texas Southern has struggled with, in my opinion, from out the gate. Definitely establishing that wall of sound while also being able to provide these mixes of genre and style within the rest of their repertoire that makes for a very interesting collection of songs to put in the book. Literally the only thing that I didn't hear throughout this that I know is and should be Texas Southern's bag, which is why it was so apparent to me that I haven't heard a Pollard piece today, is that up-tempo kind of honestly either New Orleans feel or just more higher pace feel of something that would be the closest thing to a dancer tune, but just up in that pace. A lot of the movement that's produced in those pieces is simulated in things like what Simmons would write. So definitely seeing him return on the podium in the first battle, which happened last year as well. He directed a song versus PV last year as well. So I do want to hear that those pieces start to come out, because I think that adding that extra voice will just, continue to stretch the book to however many pieces they got this year, especially with the amount of schools that they'll be seeing. But beyond that, that's my takeaways. That's the breakdowns. That's the analysis. And that's the first battle of the year, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of getting into the actual season. Southern versus North Carolina was a good warm up. Now we are in the season for real. No more classics, no more season jitters. we here. Thank y'all for being a part of this ride with me. Once again, thank you for 1,000 subscribers. You only keep going up from here. Thank you for watching. I will catch you guys later. And peace and crank up.